quicker than single pointing. So making a pair of handles, M10, threading the end of there up to the collar. Started out everything going swimmingly, and then that snapped. So we're now making not a pair but two of. Well, we're just getting set up to start scraping. I'm going to do the flat face first and then the angled face second. Thought I'd have a few seconds just to tell you about things you need to consider. You want the surface that you're scraping as near as damn it horizontal. It ain't easy trying to scrape a flat face if it's presented to you at an angle. It also wants to be presented to you at a comfortable working height. This is possibly a couple of inches too high, but it's, as a rule of thumb, I always think working height, the workpiece wants to be somewhere between your hip height and your elbow height. This is probably just towards my elbow rather than at my hip. You've got to be able to hold the thing rigid because you're going to lean on the scraper and put some effort in, and that means you basically don't want the thing slipping and sliding around. Like a prat, I've glued in the handles because it would have been helpful to have a bit more pinched in the vice jaws. You live and learn. So if you're making it like this, don't glue the handles in. So the first job is basically going to give it a rough scrape over so we can pick up the transfer medium, which is ink. That's the two scraping tips that I've got, and you can see that's got quite a tight radius on it. That's a slightly larger radius, that's larger again, and that's all but square. It is actually a radius, but it's near as damn it's square. When you buy them from Sandvik, who make these, you get different widths of scraper. This one's a 25mm. I think there's a 20 and a 30 as well. I went for 25 because I couldn't afford to buy two. There's not a lot to them. It's only a flat piece of bar with a radiused edge for comfort, and then a clamp. This is the bit where I do my first scrape and this thing skids out the vise and I end up in a pickle down the bottom. Well, let's have a go. So we're not looking for a pattern at this stage. All we're doing is giving some texture to the surface. And we're trying to make sure that we're not taking more off one area than another. So we're doing individual scrape marks. And these are about 1.5 inches long, maybe 1/4 inch wide. Now if you do a Google search for Practical Machinist Forum and then scroll down the forum discussions till you get to the bit on machine reconditioning and scraping, there is all that you'd ever want to know pretty much contained in those threads, and some of them go back quite a few years. I've found it pretty invaluable. I've also found that the people that are on it and offer help and advice freely are genuinely a nice bunch of chaps and chapesses. So I've just dusted that off with my finger just so you can see. I've not put any depth to that at all yet because I'm just seeing what it's like. There's a lot of guys out there that have got far more experience than me and will tell you all the things that I'm doing wrong. Take note of them because I'm making it up as I go along. There are scraping courses available around the world. A lot of them run by a guy called Richard King, and it's well worth following what he writes. He's a time served, done it for a living for 40 odd years. What's not to want out of that? So that, as far as I'm concerned, is a rough scrape. Next thing we do is go over it with a stone. Now what I've found is I've got a large diamond lapping plate from when I used to sharpen a lot of woodworking tools, plane irons and things. I'm using a diamond stone. I use a oil-based ink as opposed to a water-based ink. So I use mineral spirits or white spirits as a solvent. I put a bit on my lapping plate, and I'm just going to clean the bottom of the stone. It helps it cut a bit better, and if like me you drop things, you can see the dints out the corners, and then you're just doing a light rub over, and you can feel it just scraping over the burrs that are left by the scraper, and you'll feel the texture change. So instead of it scraping, it then skids, and that's all you're looking at doing. I then go over it with my hand, and I can feel the grit that's left on there. It's worth at this stage getting yourself a clean cloth, clean enough. Rub off the excess, because I've been using mineral spirits. That sometimes will stick in there, and that messes up your print as well. It makes it go smeary. I'm just cleaning off the roller. You get mucky, and you can see that I've spread ink on the, or I've put some blobs of ink on the plate. You then rub them out, spread it around. Now there's quite a lot of discussion about what I've read, certainly on Practical Machinists, about the wonders of the water-based inks. They're not easy to get hold of over here in the UK, so I'm using what I could get, and it's a pain in the arse till you get the idea of using it, and then I actually found it no problem at all. The trick is putting the right amount on. Excuse my head banging the camera. Now I don't know whether you should be able to still see the patterning of the flaking through the film of ink. I'm taking a look at it using the light to pick up any muck that might have been introduced by me. Now the likes of Richard say run your hands over it to feel it. My problem is I haven't got a great deal of sensitivity in some of my fingertips, but I can see specks. The other thing you can do is listen for it. So I'm lowering it down, possibly something under the edge there, and then all I'm going to do is do a rotation test. So it's spinning in the middle here, and I know that it's going to be a rubbish print already. So that's now showing me that it's high in the middle. So I don't need to do much more other than that. And you can see there's a bit of pickup on one end, tiny little bit of pickup on the other end, and then it's down this area here. So that goes back, and then we just do a thorough scrape over those areas. What we want to speed things up is we want it almost hollow through the middle and picking up on the ends. Then as you take the ends down, those print areas move towards the middle until you finally get full coverage. Once you've got full coverage, you'll start to get it pivoting roughly a third in from each end and each side. Once you've got that, you know you've got a flat plane. Then you're starting to look to break down the sides of the blue printed areas to give you an even distribution. So this is the first print, and just to highlight the areas, we're basically touching there, and then I know that the two outsides are only touching because the thing is teetering like that. So all I'm going to do is remove this area. Try and be consistent in everything that you're doing, so it goes in the vise the same way round. In this case I've got the angled face towards me, so I don't know whether it does show up. So you can see the print area is now moved there, and it's noticeably sort of rotating around there as opposed to right in the middle. So the print pattern's very similar to how it was. Does it show up? Bring you down closer. So it's, it's what you're not doing on at this stage is just hitting the blues. You're just taking the whole areas down. So probably leave that area. Probably leave that area. So you keep going until you've got even distribution all the way over, and your rotation is there and there. And I'll bring you back when we get near that point, because I've only got 20 minutes of video and I'm already up to 10. That's where we're at after 6 cycles. The pivot points have moved out to the ends, so I'm going to carry on working everything down until this area comes in, and then we'll start basically looking to get the rotation right. Not a million miles off though. That's 6 cycles, about half an hour. Right, so that's where we're at after 12 roughing cycles. It's just this very small area here that still needs bringing in. So I'm still using 1.5 inch long strokes, leaning on it and taking the whole, I've checkered the area so you can see which bit I'm going after. So we're up to 17 cycles. The last 2 cycles have reduced the scrape length to around about 1 centimetre. There's a tiny little bit not coming on that corner, but I think as I drop the high spots down now, I think that'll come in, as will the edges. As I say, that edge isn't a working edge, neither is that one or that one. It's only this face. We've got to start hitting the blue spots now with little short scrapes, scraping out the if you take a look at my big podger, I'll get something smaller than my big podger. Take a look at that one, you can see the shiny spot in the middle, so we scrape that away. Same on that one. So all of those that have got like a sort of darker grey centre, we scrape away the dark grey, clean it off, reprint, and then start seeing where we're getting. Alrighty. We're now at 22 cycles. I don't know whether you can tell, but I've put I went over it, cleaned it all off after the last scrape, deburred it, cleaned it off completely with a clean cloth, then went over it with a red Sharpie, just fine hatch marks, then 1 drop of white spirits to dissolve the Sharpie, and then just smeared that in with my finger to give me basically a red contrast background, because the printing medium I use, which is that, which I have no affiliation to, but it's readily available in the UK, and it's oil based. They don't do it in a red, so for all you guys using canode ink, so you don't forget about this, but it's obviously miles easier to see the blue against the red. Then what you're basically doing is getting it to a stage where you could drop on your sophisticated template and you count how many contact points in a square inch, and you just do a random sample across it. So that's where we're at the moment. I've now got to go over it and break up the blue. If you look closely, which I'll be doing through the screen now, I'm struggling to see any dark grey spots, but I'm seeing a lot of light silver blue, and it's those that we're going to be hitting now. So that's gone over it both directions, so once that way and then once that way to take down the blues. Try and bring these areas of red that you can see, bring them nearer to the surface plane that we're looking at. Well, we just sampled it and we're now up to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 cycles. We've got 27 points, 25 points, 28 points and 30 points. If you look at the density, that's getting on for 50%. I would have said the same for that. Maybe 45. And then that's dropping. You've got smaller contact areas. So I'm going to just do another couple of cycles to try and refine it a little bit more. But it's getting there now. If it was a bearing surface, I'd have said it was done half an hour ago. But because I've got to use it as a transfer to put ink onto a future bearing surface, I want it a little bit better than it is. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, fit for purpose now. It's a nice even distribution, plenty of depth to the scrapes, so that you can get ink between it. Now I could just keep going on taking those light blue dots down now, and these you can see now there's actually areas coming up which are higher than the others, showing as a grey point. So there'd be big podger, and that's what happens as you refine the surface and you take the peaks down, other peaks come through. But for what I'm doing, that'll be fine. And it's lunchtime, so time for tea. Cup of. Well, I spent the afternoon actually working on the angled face. We've brought that down. We got a average of 25 dots per inch. I think the lowest was 22 and the highest was 32. So that will probably be the face we work on for printing. Not much more I can say really. I was going to include some footage of me actually using it, but as I've run out of time on the deadline for Emma's competition, I figured I better get this video made up, processed and uploaded, and I'll do the actual work on the tool head that this is going to be used for. I'll do that as 2 separate videos and put them up on my own channel should you be interested. And yeah, take a look at Stefan Gottsberg's latest couple of videos, and